How's it going, everybody? This is Derek. I brought my trusty sidekick Thor along with me tonight. We're here at the Caledonia Furnace, which is going to be our focus for this week's video. So, we're here along Route 30 and 233, right in between Gettysburg and Chambersburg. And, well, a little background about, see, we're gonna backtrack a little bit from our last video. But while we're gonna go over here. Come on, Thor. So, while we're walking, I'm gonna talk. Come on, bud. The way it is, Daddy Stevens was born in Vermont, and he moved to Pennsylvania in 1815. He actually settled in New York area. Well, he was there for about a year, and then he decided to settle in the Gettysburg area, where he would practice law. Well, as it turns out, the way it would go, he would also start iron business. He would actually open up his first iron furnace at the Marina in Fairfield, called the Maria Furnace, in 1822. Which, of course, Fairfield is actually south of Gettysburg a little ways. Well, south and west, that's to say. Anyway, that business venture proved to be not very profitable, just because of the fact that the iron ore in that area wasn't the greatest. So they moved up to this area, which is now the home of Caledonia State Park. Now, the iron area deposits in this area were said to be of better quality. So he created the Caledonia Furnace, which was founded in 1837 and went into production. Now, over here is the Thaddeus Stevens blacksmith shop. Now, the whole area was home to about 200 workers and their families, and they would house a blacksmith shop, which you see here. It would basically be a small town. It had the furnace, the forge, the stables, warehouses, the blacksmith shop, a sawmill, and a rolling mill. Of course, with being right here at the creek, that would work out great for the mills. But the problem was, the furnace made little profit. But Thaddeus Stevens, he was a working man's type of guy. He did not want to put the families out of work, so he kept the business running, even after he moved his lawyer office to the Lancaster area, just so he could help support those families. Now, once the war broke out, of course, that really helped out a lot, because obviously there was a much more need for iron ore. Well, being that the area had prospered, once the Confederate Army came up into this area in June of 1863, there was some raiding and movement by the Confederate Army. Now, the Confederate cavalry under Jenkins actually made a stop here on June 16th, taking 40 horses and mules along with them. So basically, they got off easy, the people of the Caledonia Furnace, figuring that was going to be the last that they were going to see of the Confederate Army. Wasn't true. A couple days later, on June 26th, Jubal Early's division under Ewell's Corps came through this way on their way to Gettysburg. They were actually going through Gettysburg on their way to York. Now, there was some action in Gettysburg, but we'll talk about that in another video. But they made a stop here, and despite pleas from the manager, John Sweeney, Jubal Early decided to burn it. Now, General Lee had strict orders against any unneeded pillaging, burning, what have you. But Early stated that because of Stevens's views, of course, he was a very big person against the use of slavery. He was all for abolition. He was very instrumental in Lincoln's passing of several amendments regarding slavery, and Early said that that was the reason why they burned this area. Now, they burned when they burned this area, of course now you don't see a whole lot, it displaced those 200 workers and their families. They marched all their way on to Gettysburg. The unit that actually he ordered to burn it was the 17th Virginia Cavalry under French. Another factor that played into it was the foreman, William Hammett, was actually conductor on the Underground Railroad. And of course, Sweeney had ties with the Underground Railroad too, it was suspected. So, Early wasn't too thrilled about it. Well, the story goes that on July 1st, when General Lee actually came through this area, he witnessed the destruction that was brought on by Early's division. And the rumor is that General Lee personally ordered a quartermaster to provide provisions for these 200 workers and their families. Now, I can't say General Lee definitely did that, but it is known that there was provisions provided to these families by the Confederate Army. Well, after the war, well, I should say after the battle, the furnace and the forge were rebuilt with help from Thaddeus Stevens and the Al brothers. And it ran in a limited capacity until 1870. After that, the area was purchased by the Diller brothers in 1887, and they ran a quarry in this area. But then after a while, the land became owned by the Caledonia Mining Company and sold to the state in 1903. Earlier in the 20th century, the Gettysburg Trolley Company, which actually had areas on the actual battlefield, they actually leased land around this area, and they actually had like amusement rides and stuff. And actually, the blacksmith shop here was used as a station. But once the 1930s came around, actually the early 1930s, the CCC started building roads in this area, and now it is known as Caledonia State Park. So, on June 26th of 1863, Jubal Early's division comes through here and burns this area down, essentially a small town, on their way to Gettysburg. But it would not be met without resistance. A couple miles from Gettysburg, they would meet some resistance from the 26th Pennsylvania Emergency Militia, which was mustered outside of Harrisburg. And that would also include the very first considered the very first casualty in the Gettysburg area. But that is a story for another time.